Turek.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony hereabout to give of you the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
And please state and spell your first and last name for Madam Court Reporter.
Sure, it's Carol, C-A-R-O-L, Carol Sue Turek, T-U-R-E-K.
Judge, may we approach just briefly before her testimony begins?
Yes. All right, Mr. Noel.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, let me get you to sit forward in your seat and pull that microphone down towards you. The seat doesn't move, but the microphone does a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, you're kind of soft-spoken, so let me get you to
All
speak
right.
up really loud, okay?
Okay.
Ma'am, how are you employed?
Excuse me?
How are you employed?
I'm currently retired.
Before you retired, how were you employed, ma'am?
I was a banker for Wells Fargo Bank, and I worked with them for 27 years.
Was Wells Fargo previously known as Wachovia Bank?
Yes, they were.
Did you also work for Wachovia?
Yes, I did.
What various branches did you work for, ma'am? Let me ask it this way. Where did you work when you were working as a banker?
As a banker,
Yes, ma'am.
what offices for Wachovia?
Yes.
I worked in the Ormond office, and I worked in the Daytona Beach office on International Speedway in Clyde Morris.
Okay. So both of those are in Volusia County, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
When you say Ormond, you're referring to Ormond Beach?
Ormond Beach, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And you said that you worked at the Wachovia Wells Fargo on International Speedway Boulevard at Clyde Morris. Where is that located?
It's right on the intersection of ISB, International Speedway, and Clyde Morris, right next to the Halifax Hospital.
Is that a major intersection in Daytona?
Yes, it is a major intersection, because there's a mainland high school there, there's Emery-Riddle, and the bank, and then the hospital on the other corner.
Okay. Were you working at the Wachovia Bank at the Daytona Beach location you have described on December the 7th of 2010?
Yes, I was.
Did anything unusual happen that day?
Yes.
What happened, ma'am?
Okay, I was in my office, and my assistant manager came and introduced me to a customer that said he wanted to open up a new account. And when I accepted him in my office, and when he came in my office, he had a letter, and he asked me to read that letter. It was a 3-page letter, and to read it carefully. The first sentence of the letter stated that he...
Hearsay into narrative.
I will overrule the objection to the extent it may have affected the listener, and I'll sustain it as to the truth of the matter asserted.
Did this individual hand you a letter?
Yes, he did.
Did the letter contain directions for what you were supposed to do?
Yes, it did.
What were those directions contained within this letter?
Those directions were that I was to get somebody in charge, and that he had a bomb, and that he would detonate it, and I had to wait 30 minutes till after he left, or he would detonate that bomb, and he wanted cash from our vault.
Did he show you what he told you was a bomb?
He had a black briefcase that he sat next to him on the chair next. There was 2 chairs in front of my desk. I was in the office. I was not a teller. I was a banker. And he reached into his briefcase and he pulled out, it looked like a little remote. When I read the first line, I looked up at him and he kind of like shook his head yes. And he pulled that out, and I got nervous, and I stood up in front of my desk and I told him to put that away, that it wasn't necessary, that if he let me read the letter, I will follow his instructions, and that I didn't want anybody to get hurt.
Did the letter indicate that he had additional weapons beyond a bomb?
Yes.
What were those additional weapons, ma'am?
He said he had a gun and a bomb, a gun, taser, and a bomb.
How close were you to this individual when all this was going on?
He was just on either side of my desk.
About 3
Right.
feet?
Probably probably like right about there.
And can you give us an estimate, because we can't, less than 3 feet be fair?
Yes, less than 3 feet.
What, you said that you were directed to get money from the vault. What did you do to effectuate getting the money from the vault?
Well, I explained to him that, me being a banker, I didn't have access to the vault and that I would have to get somebody in charge. And he told me to go and do so.
Did you do that?
I went, yes, I went and got as far as the door, and he told me that was far enough, and I called over our assistant manager, and he came to my door, and I told him there was this 3-page letter that he should read it, and he read the letter also.
Who was your assistant manager?
Mike Awtrey.
After Mr. Awtrey read the letter, what happened to next?
We walked out of my office, and Mike walked out first. I was hoping to be able to stay in my office, but he informed me that I had to go along. I walked out after Mike, and he walked out behind us. And we had to go to a secured area where the break room is, and then next to the break room is the teller line, and then the vault is on the other end. Mike went through the secured area. I followed Mike. At that point in time, I suggested to the individual to stay behind this closed door, because I said, if you come in here, it's going to make it very suspicious, and it's going to, alarm somebody. So he agreed and stayed behind the closed door, which gave us the opportunity to contact officers.
Was money ultimately given to this individual?
Yes, Mike Awtrey, when he went through the teller area, he got in touch with the head teller, and between Stephanie, I believe her name was, at that time, and Mike, they got the cash. I stayed in the break room.
And just so we're clear, the break room is effectively a secure area,
It's all secured. He could not get in that area.
and law enforcement was contacted.
Yeah.
The money was given to him. What happened next?
Well, he went out the front doors, and it was the whole time, too, while they were getting the cash, they were speaking, and I was begging her to please hang up, because I was concerned that for our safety, because he had showed me the bomb and everything, but she wouldn't hang up. But we walked out, and there's a glass door, and I saw that he was walking through the parking lot, and all of a sudden he stopped, and I saw him running back, and he was running back into the direction of the office. He got to the front door.
I'll sustain the objection.
After you saw this individual running back from the parking lot, what did you see next?
I saw the police officer put him down by the front door.
Had you escorted this individual to the front door of the bank, or did someone else do that?
Excuse me?
Did you walk with the individual to the front door of the bank, or did someone else do that?
No, I believe Mike might have, after I got into the break room area, I never went back out of the secured area till I knew he was gone.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Okay, Ms. Turek, so you were in banking for a long time, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you said 27 years, is that right?
Well, that was just with one, probably close to 40 years in banking.
Okay, and on this particular date, after all of this happened, you wrote a statement for law enforcement, right? Mm-hmm. That's a yes?
Yes.
Sorry, just for
I'm
the
sorry,
court
yes.
reporter, you have to say it out loud. But today is actually the first time that you've testified in court or anything like that, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So going back to that date, prior to your interaction with him, the man in that case was sitting calmly in the lobby of the bank waiting for you, is that right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. And then you indicated you met him and he handed you the note. You don't know how long he had been waiting, just sitting there in the lobby before that?
I do not know how long he had been waiting.
Okay. And so the note he handed you, it was handwritten, is that right?
It was handwritten.
On, I believe you said 3 pages long?
It was 3 pages.
And over the course of your career, you've been involved in a number of robberies, is that right?
I have.
Okay, and a multiple-page handwritten note is a fairly unusual way to rob a bank, is that correct?
A 3-page letter?
Yes.
Yes.
And it took you some time to read that, is that right?
Well, I mean, after you read the first sentence, you can't absorb anything else.
Okay, so during that time, you indicated that he pulled something out of his pocket that you believed was a remote, is that right?
Yes, and not out of his pocket, out of that black case.
Okay, I apologize. And you told him to put it away, and he did, is that right?
And he did.
And he never showed you any sort of weapon, is that right?
No, he just stated he had one.
Okay. And he never touched you in any way?
No.
Okay. And he sat in the chair across from your desk during that entire interaction, is that right?
He did.
And so he wasn't like hovering over you or physically threatening you in any way?
No.
Okay. So then you called Mr. Awtrey over, and again, at this point, still doesn't show a weapon, is that right?
That's correct.
And he didn't touch Mr. Awtrey?
No, he did not.
He didn't, like, physically, like I talked about, threaten, hover over him, anything like that?
No, he did not.
Okay. And so then you all made the determination that you needed to go to the vault, and that was because he had specifically asked for vault money. Is
He
that
asked for
correct?
vault money. He did.
And again, that's something that's unusual for a bank robbery, is that right?
Not necessarily. I mean, there've been instructions where they wanted vault money, or they just wanted, money they wanted to get in and out fast, and they would just take whatever cash was in your drawer. So
Okay.
it varies.
Okay, but going to the vault would take more time and effort.
It does
is
take
that
more
right?
time, and yes,
And you explained that to the individual, is that right?
I did.
Okay. And so when you left your office, you indicated that the individual was behind you. At that point, he did not bring the briefcase or that remote with him, correct?
No, he didn't.
He left both of those items in your office.
Yes, he did.
And
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I would assume that, yes.
Okay.
Remote, yeah.
sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but so in that time, still wasn't physically pushing or threatening you by touching you in any way, right?
No, he did not.
Okay. And so you get to the security door, and I just wanted to make this clear that there's essentially like you had to put like a keypad in, and then you went to another
Keypad, you had
side
to
of the
put a
door.
combination in.
Okay, and so then when you went to the other side of the door, it would have locked, and he was on the other side.
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
Okay, and so he didn't insist on following you in there.
No, he stayed behind.
Okay, and so he essentially agreed to be locked out of wherever you were. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so he couldn't hear what was going on behind that door or touch you or really see what was going on. Is that right?
Correct.
Objection, speculation.
I'll sustain to the form of the question.
The way that it's set up, can you hear what's going on behind the door if you're in front of it?
Again,
I-
calls for speculation.
I'll overrule that objection.
You can answer.
You can hear a conversation on the other side of that door. You just don't have access to that door, but you can hear. It's not a soundproof, that lunchroom is not soundproof.
And there's actually like a lunchroom, so he knew people were back there. Is that right?
Was one individual back there having lunch.
Objection, speculation.
I'll overrule the objection.
And that one individual, I believe you talked about, that's the person that you were saying was calling the police. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So then at that point, you stayed in the break room and didn't come back out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I asked earlier that you wrote a statement for law enforcement that day, right?
That's correct.
And so your testimony today was that you saw him coming running back towards the door. Is that correct?
After he had left the office with the money.
Okay.
Yes.
And so when you wrote your statement, you wrote it 10 years ago about, within minutes or an hour of this
Right.
actually happening. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you swore that that statement was the truth and included all the important details, correct? Okay, and Judge, may I approach the witness?
Show Mr. Nunley.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Okay, I'm handing you a copy of your statement. If you would just review it to yourself and then look up when you're done.
Okay. Okay.
And in that statement, you never indicated that he ran back towards the door or tried to re-enter, correct?
That's correct.
Judge, may I approach the
I was
witness?
looking at
Yes.
this, and there could have been another page to this, I'm not sure, but
You signed to the bottom of this one?
that's correct. But there could be a page one, that could be a second 2 pages, because the way that sentence ends, it kind of appears like my conversation was more, possibly.
Yes.
Did you see this following sentence where you, down here, where you sort of smudged into the bottom?
Yeah.
That he was,
Right. Okay,
so this statement ends in a full sentence?
Okay.
right? Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, and you believe that this is the completed statement?
It is a correct statement.
Judge, may I have just one moment?
Yes.
Judge, I don't have any further questions. May I approach the clerk?
Yes. Redirect?
Ma'am, just to make absolutely clear, the individual who passed you the note stayed outside of the break room at your suggestion, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And you suggested that because the break room was a secure area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would it have been suspicious for him to have walked into the break room?
That's correct.
I object to speculation.
I'll overrule the objection.
You can answer, ma'am. Would it have been suspicious for him to have entered
It
the
would have
break
been
room?
very suspicious, as it would have been, alerted all of our tellers and our customers. And, yeah, I mean, if they see an individual as he was dressed behind the teller area, that they know they would have known he didn't belong there.
How many tellers were in the bank?
At least, we used to have at least 6 tellers at all times.
And do you remember how many people were perhaps in the, customers were in the bank lobby?
There were several customers in the bank lobby.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, ma'am, you can step down.
All right.
Mr. Nunley, please call the next witness for the state.
This witness may be released, Your Honor.
Ma'am? Yeah, you're excused.
I'm sorry?
You're excused, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
Michael Awtrey.
Judge, while he's coming in, can we approach this again briefly?
Yes.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Sir, please state and spell your first and last name for Madam Court Reporter.
Michael Awtrey, Michael Awtrey.
Thank you. Mr. Nunley.
Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
How are you employed?
I'm good.
How are you employed, sir?
Oh, how am I employed right now? I am a Director of Field Operations for Global Protection Products. It's a hurricane shutter installer. We do install hurricane shutters on new construction.
When did you start that job, sir?
I started February 2018, I believe.
Prior to your current position, did you work for either Wachovia Bank or Wells Fargo Bank?
Yes, I did.
Which one, or was it both?
I started, they were Wachovia for I think a month, and then they became Wachovia Wells Fargo Company, and then they became Wells Fargo. So technically both.
On December 7th of 2010, how were you employed?
I was a service manager for Wells Fargo.
What is a service manager for Wells Fargo do?
It's kind of essentially an assistant manager. The way it was broken down to, there was a branch manager at every location. that was kind of oversaw everybody in the actual branch, but they mainly focused on the what they call it, the bankers, which would be the people that would sit at the office, actually opens account. And then there would be assistant manager who would be the next level of supervision, and they mainly oversaw the teller line. So that was my responsibility. I was assistant manager, so I was a branch manager's backup, and I oversaw the teller line primarily.
Were you assigned to more than one branch of the bank, or did you stay at the same branch all the time?
At that time, I was only assigned to that branch.
Which branch were you assigned to, sir?
It was called International Speedway location. It was in Daytona Beach.
Where in Daytona Beach is that branch located, sir?
It's located on International Speedway. I don't know the address off the top of my
Okay.
head. It's a
What's it
little bit
close to? What's it close to?
close to the Daytona Speedway. And there's a mall there, the Daytona Beach Mall. It's not that far.
Is this a major intersection in the Daytona Beach area?
Yeah, it's just off the main road.
On December 7th of 2010, did anything unusual happen at the bank branch where you were working?
There was a robbery.
What was your involvement as a bank employee with dealing with this robbery?
So on that particular day, the branch manager, Wendy, was in a manager meeting off-site at a different location. So I was acting as the branch manager that day, kind of overseeing everything. At that time, I was in the lobby of the bank where everybody would walk in, doing what we called lobby leading, which was pretty much greeting all the customers when they came in the door, asking them what that brought them in that day, and then kind of directing them to where they needed to go.
Okay, did you have the occasion to come in contact with an individual who had given a note to one of your bankers, Carol Turek?
Yes. A gentleman walked in on that particular day while I was lobby leading. He said, I believe he originally asked to speak to the manager. And I informed him the manager wasn't there that day because she was at a meeting. And then he said, okay, well, I would like to open an account. At that point in time, all the bankers or the individuals who opened an accounts were busy. So I told him he'd have to wait. He said, okay. So I walked him over to the seating area. He sat down for a few minutes until one of my bankers, Carol Turek, was ready. And then I escorted him over to Carol and informed Carol that he needed to open an account or wanted to open an account.
Did Ms. Turek ultimately ask you to come back to her office?
Yes. So a couple minutes later, maybe 5 minutes or so later, I was back in the lobby area, and then she called my name and asked me to come over. She looked a little upset. I figured at the time that, customer was angry. A lot of times we have to do what we call account screening, where we would run their information and it would tell us if we're allowed to open them an account based on prior banking history, credit, et cetera. And then sometimes we can't do that and they're not upset. So I figured that's what was happening. I walked over back into the office and she proceeded to hand me some 2 or 3 pieces of paper, I believe 3 pieces of paper, and said, you need to read this.
Did you do that?
I did begin to start reading the paper, yes.
Did this paper give you specific instructions?
Yes, it was instructions on what the gentleman liked us to do. It informed us saying, I believed it was something to the effect, the first line was, this is a robbery or you're being robbed. Please follow the directions. And it was, 2.5 pages of directions on what he wanted done and some different ramblings in between there.
Did the note that you read make reference to a weapon or weapons?
Yeah, it stated that he had a bomb in a briefcase, which he had. It also, he said that he had a gun, and I believe he might have stated he had another weapon, but I do remember he said he had a bomb and a gun. And as I was reading the note, he told me a couple times to smile.
Non-responsive.
I'll sustain the objection.
What was happening while you were reading the note?
Okay, as I started to read the note, he told me to smile and to act natural, normal. And he pulled out what appeared to me to be a taser. and insinuated that it was a detonator for the bomb in the briefcase, and said that if I didn't act natural or if I tried to get hold of police, that he would use it, and then he put that back in his pocket.
Let me ask you a couple of things, just kind of housekeeping matters here right quick before we move on with what happened. How close were you standing to the individual who you were dealing with?
Probably as close as us two are right now.
And you're indicating, Madam Court Reporter, about how far away are you from the court reporter?
Maybe 3-4 feet.
Okay? And you referred to Ms. Turek and some of the other personnel as being a banker. Is that a particular title within the banking industry? Or what does that mean? What does a banker do?
In that, yeah, I guess every company, they call them different things. Usually a banker, or some people would call it platform personnel, would be somebody who would actually open accounts, would service an account. If you wanted a loan, you had to do something IRA, something of that nature where you had to sit down. It was a little bit more in-depth service, as opposed to if you just went to a teller line and say cash a check or took out some money.
Okay. Now, you've been told, moving back to the events of the robbery, you've been told to smile. What happened next?
So as I was trying to read the note, he kept on telling me to smile. A couple of times he asked me to look at him, and I got to a point where I would get to like a half a sentence. He kept on looking at me, smile. I had to stop him and say, okay, I'll read the note, but I can't read the note if you keep on stopping me. He said, okay, just don't do anything funny. So I finished reading the 2 pages, and I said, okay, what would you like to do? He said, let's get the money. Don't do anything.
Did you do that?
So I did. In the note, it said he particularly wanted the large bills out of our vault, which meant that we had to walk essentially all the way across that particular location. We were, if you're facing the inside of the building, we were on the right side, the vault was on the left, and it takes 2 people because the combo is split into 2 or 3 different people depending.
What's a combo?
Combo to the vault. So I had to go get somebody that had the other part of the combo to get the money. So Carol, the gentleman, and I walked across the branch to the teller line where I would get a different person that had the combo. The way the branch was set up is you had to go through a security door where you had to type in a combo that led to a little mini break room that led to the teller line. Once we got to the door, I informed him, because he had mentioned multiple times, don't let anybody know.
I'll sustain the objection.
What happened when you got to the secure door?
So I got to the door. I told him that if he went beyond this point into this room, into the teller line, that everybody would know that we were being robbed because only bank personnel could come back there. So I said, you got 2 choices. You can come back here. Or you could wait here. You could go back around. You could see us on the teller line to make sure we're not doing anything. And then Carol proceeded to say, yeah, if you go back there, everybody will know. He said, okay, don't try anything funny. I'll be watching. Don't remember I have a bomb. So Carol and I went into the break room. Once we were in the break room, there was 2 tellers that were in the break room. I informed them that we were being robbed. They asked if we called the police. I told them no. One of them proceeded to call the police, and then I quickly tried to do this as I was walking through, so he didn't realize what was going on. Carol stayed in the break room. I went to one of our tellers, Stephanie, who I knew had the other half of the combo. I explained to her what was going on, told her to be calm, tried to not let everybody know, so she did.
Okay. Did you ultimately, you and the other teller that you've identified, did you ultimately open the vault?
Yes. So
And did you go in the vault?
yes.
Did you gather up money from inside the vault?
Yes.
Did you put the money in a bag?
Yes.
About how much money did you gather up?
Oh, that I do not recall. I couldn't tell you. It was a decent sized bag. He told us to make sure it was full and to have larger bills. We tried to layer it so it appeared that he got all the large bills, so we put small, like ones and fives on the bottom and put like 50s and 100s on top. But the exact amount, we weren't really keeping track of. We were just trying to give the appearance that there was maybe a little bit more money than there was.
Okay. Did you eventually come out of the vault, out of the secure area, and hand over this duffel bag to the individual?
Yep, once the bag was full, Stephanie and I walked out of the vault. We handed him the bag. And he said, remember, I believe 30 minutes, because in the note it said that after he left, that we were not to hit any alarms to call the police for a set amount of time. And then he left. As soon as he walked out the door, we locked the door behind him.
Did you walk to the door with him?
No, I don't believe so. I think I handed him a duffel bag and he walked because by that time there was another employee in the lobby and I was going to inform her what was happening so she could help with everything. So I watched him exit. I went to tell her and she had apparently, I'd already knew what happened. So we just ran over and locked the door so he could not re-enter the building.
Did he ultimately try to re-enter the building?
Yes, I believe he walked out, went to the right. We had called the police, as I stated, so they went to approach him, and he started to come back towards the building, but he did not make it back to the door. They had restrained him by that
Was
point.
he taken into custody?
Yes.
And you saw him taken into custody?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, kind of like, he was over in the corner, so I could kind of see a little bit, but not clearly.
Okay. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Okay, so you were actually in the lobby portion when he walked in, is that right?
Yes.
And at the time that he walked in, you didn't have any cause for concern?
No.
Okay. And ultimately, after a few minutes, you brought him over to Miss Turek. Turek. And again, still nothing at that point raising your concerns?
No.
Okay. So it wasn't until Miss Turek called you back over that you thought she was upset about something?
Correct.
And at that time, it still wasn't anything about the man that caused your concern, it was just sort of her demeanor, I guess?
Correct.
Okay. So the note that you read, it was handwritten, is that right?
Yes.
And it was multiple pages long?
Yes.
And you indicated that the note mentioned that he had a gun, but you never saw a gun, right?
I don't recall seeing the gun, no.
And he never pointed a gun at you, threatened you with a gun in any way?
With a particular gun, no.
Okay. And you didn't see a bulge or a hand in his pocket or any sort of visual indication that he was hiding a gun?
He did have his hand in his pocket, but it was on, I believe, what he was insinuating was the detonator for the bomb.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to that. But this bomb was supposedly inside a briefcase. Is that right?
Yes.
And you never opened that briefcase or saw inside it? Okay, and coming back to, you said you believed it was a taser in his hand, is that right?
Yeah.
And you said that you thought he was trying to imply that that was a detonator.
Yeah, he said that there was a bomb in a briefcase and he pulled out the taser and it looked like it had he tried to modify it or had some wires on it to make it appear to be a detonator, and he said, I'll blow, it's a bomb, and kind of held it to make it assume like that would be what he would be using as a remote for the bomb.
And so even at that time, you didn't actually believe that that was a detonator, right?
Not once I saw it and it looked like something you would pull to somebody's neck or say, per se, as a taser, then I kind of,
And so
maybe.
even at the time, you didn't really believe he had a weapon, is that right? Other than perhaps this taser.
what,
Overruled.
he had a taser. I still didn't quite know if he had a gun, but I was fairly confident at that point in time, kind of put me at ease that there probably was not a bomb involved.
Okay. And you walk over to Ms. Turek's office, and in that time, he's not aggressive with you. Is that right?
No, he seemed nervous because he kept on repeating, stay calm. You could tell that he was maybe a little on nerve, which would be understandable, I guess, but it was not overly aggressive.
Okay.
with
And
me.
he never actually touched you in any way?
No.
You never saw him touch Miss Turek, excuse me.
I did not see that, no.
Okay. And he wasn't hovering over you or physically threatening you in any way?
No.
And when you asked him to calm down because you were reading, he did?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you went to get money out of the vault because he specifically requested vault money, is that right?
Yes.
And you had to explain to him that that was going to take some more effort than just teller money, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And even knowing that there was more, it was going to take more effort, more time, that's what he wanted you to do?
Yep.
Okay. And so then you got to the security door, and he was following you and Miss Turk there. And in that time, he never physically touched you, right?
No.
Wasn't yelling threats to anyone else in the lobby?
No.
Okay. And he didn't display any weapon as he's following you, right?
No.
Okay. And ultimately, you described this sort of conversation with him, but he allows you to sort of lock yourselves separate from him. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I explained him the teller line situation, and he said, okay, just don't do anything.
Okay. And when you handed him the bag back, he said thank you and remember 30 minutes and left. Is that right?
Yep.
And so still in that time, he didn't physically threaten anyone in the lobby or you?
Not me. I don't know, like, when I was in a vault or
Right.
separate.
I mean, at the
I don't
time
know.
you're handing the money off and he
Yeah,
did.
he didn't say anything that in my presence, no.
And just to be clear, you never saw him touch anyone else?
I didn't witness that, no.
Okay. And you never saw him behave aggressively towards anyone else?
Besides when I was in the actual office and he mentioned that he had a bomb
Right.
and would detonate it, no.
Judge, may I have one moment?
Yes.
Judge, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Redirect?
Mr. Awtrey, did you believe this was a robbery?
Yes.
Did you believe you were threatened?
And when somebody threatens to kill you, yeah, there's always that thought that there's a threat, yes.
No further questions?
All right, sir, you can step down.
Am I excused, or do I need to?
You may be released, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your excuse, sir. Thank you. All right, members of the jury, in just a moment, we're going to take a brief recess. During the recess, you are going to leave your notepads and your pens here. During the recess, you're under all the court's instructions, including but not limited to the instruction not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please follow the deputy in the jury room. We'll bring you back as quickly as we can. Thank you. All right, we'll be in a brief recess.